Muy buenos días a todas y todos ustedes. Los espanté, ¿no, verdad? Así traen la conciencia. Muy buenos días, qué gusto saludarlos.
Good morning, everyone. It is a pleasure to welcome you once again. Yesterday we had a lot of work with the UN Habitat Day. We had the opportunity and the privilege of hosting this event here in Querétaro, and for us it has been an honor because we shared this with you yesterday, but we broke the record. We had over 2,000 records and over 80 countries that witnessed what happened yesterday here, and that is something to acknowledge and recognize. On behalf of all of the authorities, we would like to thank you for being with us today. Nat, today we're going to start with the activities beyond the 2030 agenda. We're going to be telling you a little bit more on what we are going to be doing in a while, but in the meantime, let us introduce the authorities and welcome them to this present. I don't know how the executive director of the United Nations Human Settlements Program woke up today, because yesterday she went from one place to another, so she was very, very busy. We kept her hands full, so please welcome her. She is very excited and happy for the records that we broke yesterday. That's right, yesterday we had many activities, and let's kick off this second day of the World Habitat Day Beyond the 2030 agenda. We have amazing presentations for today, so please take note, and as Armita you were saying, let's get started. So please welcome Graciela Gomez Garcia, the ex-director of Vinculation for the Civil Society. We are leading women present today at the World Habitat Day Beyond the 2030 agenda. And what a beautiful blouse you're wearing today with this traditional imagery. Thank you very much. So we would also like to welcome Paloma Palacios Curi, the representative of the government of Querétaro in Mexico City. Paloma, thank you very much for joining us today. And what best to also welcome our biggest allies, those who are going to be putting into practice everything that we are talking about today and we will be talking about in the next days. So let's thank the president of Wimilpan. This is an amazing challenge, and Wimilpan will also be taking action, Almita, because we all want municipalities, cities, and a more sustainable world. And this, of course, means a lot of work. And let's also welcome Rodrigo Mesa Jimenez, the Secretary of the El Marqués municipality in Querétaro. Thank you very much, Rodrigo, for joining us today. Of course, he also faces a lot of challenges, but he is obtaining a lot of ideas from this presentation. Now, Gerardo Romero Altamirano is also with us, the Secretary of Urban Development of the Municipality of Querétaro. Thank you very much for being with us today, Gerardo. Gerardo, you were here all day yesterday, so thank you very much for that. And we would also like to thank Hugo Lora Gonzalez from the Corregidora Municipality of Querétaro. Thank you very much, Hugo, for joining us today. And we would also like to welcome an amazing leader, a person that has been at the top of this effort. Let's please thank Fernando González Salinas, the Secretary of Urban Development and Public Work of the Executive Government of the State of Querétaro. And we see that he is very loved, so we definitely want to acknowledge his effort. And as we said, he was also here yesterday throughout the full day, so thank you very much. And let's also welcome our municipal mayor, Gerardo Romero Altamirano. We would also like to welcome you to the stage, so you can please give us the first remarks of the day.
¿Están bien? Buen día. Muy buen día. Es un verdadero privilegio y un gusto.
Good morning. It is a true honor being here with you today. It is amazing to see that you're all interested in the future of our planet. I would like to welcome Fernando González Salinas, the Secretary of Public Work and Urban Development of the State of Querétaro. Ana Claudia Rosbach, of course, the Executive Director of the United Nations Human Settlements Program, Paloma González, representative of the Government of Querétaro in Mexico City, Ambassador Graciela Gómez Garcia, Director of the Civil Society Organizations, my friend Jairo Morales, President of Huimilpan, Rodrigo Mesa from the El Marqués Municipality, Hugo from Corregidora, and I would also like to welcome and salute all of the government people who have helped us organize this event. And on behalf of Fernando Macías Olvera, the president, I would like to welcome you and thank you. Unfortunately, he was not able to welcome us today, but I would also like to welcome the international community that is gathered today here in Querétaro or online. I want you to know that Querétaro opens the doors for each and every single one of you and wholeheartedly welcomes you. Yesterday, we saw a very positive thing happen, not only for Querétaro, but for the world. We had an amazing World Habitat Day 2024, where we collected different records. Well, we broke different records and we collected a different type of information that is going to be very, very fruitful. So thank you very much for everyone who joined us yesterday. Having broken records and having had such an amazing day should not only keep us filled with pride, but we should also feel committed to starting the work that we have today. Today, Beyond the 2030 agenda needs to be filled with energy, passion, and determination in order for us to deliver the best possible results for the international community from Querétaro, your house. To all journalists, panelists, and hosts who have prepared material to share with us today, thank you very much for providing your knowledge to us. We are going to harness that knowledge as best as possible, and please, we are going to guarantee that we are going to put into practice the advice that you're going to give us both at our municipal and at a state level. For everyone who has made an effort to be here, thank you very much, and we would like to acknowledge you for being here today. Now, for all of us as spectators of this event, let us have the possibility of raising awareness in order to understand that outside we can no longer be as spectators. We have to be change drivers in order to generate change in our immediate environments. So from our houses, we need to continue dreaming collectively in order to reach the goals that we are going to be setting here throughout the following days. I'm sorry, I cannot open this, but let this be the beginning of an amazing event. Let's have this community transform the world. Let's have our energy and our actions lead us beyond the 2030 agenda. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for such an amazing message. Thank you very much for your valuable words and how important it is to stop being spectators and then changing and becoming change drivers. Because everything that we are learning here, everything that we are seeing and hearing here is good enough information to change. So let's welcome Graciela Gómez Garcia, Linking Director of the Civil Society Organizations. Good morning, everyone. Good morning to each and every single one of you. It is a true honor being here with you today. I am very, very pleased and honored of having the opportunity to stand in this scenario today. So I would like to welcome you and wholeheartedly give you the greetings of Juan Ramón de la Fuente, who unfortunately could not join us today, but of course he is very, very aware of what we are doing today, and he wants to know how we are doing. We will be giving all of the information to him. I would like to acknowledge Ambassador Enrique Ochoa, who was with us yesterday, and that is why I want to start here. I represent the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and maybe for some of you, I represent the abstraction of what international politics is, of what multilateral politics is. But today, we are celebrating the World Habitat Day and the Beyond the 2030 Agenda Forum. And through this, we are representing the importance of bringing all of these pressing concerns and topics through the 2030 agenda in order to translate them into very concrete results. Results that can make an impact on our lives and open up dialogue, a dialogue that we can all be a part of. And that is why I would also like to talk about collaborating. Collaboration is such an important factor in external policies. Why? Because we are addressing different topics in Geneva, Nairobi, in different international capitals of the world. And that is why we have to feel entitled. We have to feel like these concerns are our concerns, because just like that, we are going to obtain solutions. And those solutions are going to be implemented through collaboration. And that means that we are our architects. We are the architects of the change. The 2030 agenda is going to be written by each and every single one of us. All of us women are going to write that 2030 agenda. We need to become partners, collaborators, and I want to encourage you to feel that each and every single one of your voices is being heard here at Querétaro, and you are being valued, each and every single one of you. And I'm talking individually to all of you, to the youngsters, are being heard. You're given visibilization. You are being heard. You are being seen. We are very anxious to see what you have to put on the table, to see your commitments and your aspirations. So collaboration is the key word. We are all valued and we are all heard. We cannot leave anyone behind. But the third key aspect that I want to address, and this feels very close to home for me, is related to the intergenerational dialogue. You have been getting to know different leaders throughout yesterday and today, but the leaders that you see here today, including myself, are going to give the power to a new generation of global leaders. I am sure that here with us today, sitting in those chairs, are the new ambassadors, the new decision makers. We might even have the new UN Habitat Executive Director, and we will be getting to know her 20 or 30 years from now. But this is what we are celebrating, a dialogue that goes beyond generations, a dialogue that brings back everything that a few days ago we discussed at New York and that we adopted as an international community, which is a pact that links us to the future, and that links each and every single one of us, and that forces us to design happy, sustainable urban spaces, so that we can all be part of those spaces, so that we can all work together. The elderly, the youngsters, the families with pets, people that have been born in different cities and in a high mobility context have chosen to move from one place to another. So thank you very much. Thank you very much, Marcela. I would now like to welcome Ana Claudia Rosbach, the Executive Director of the United Nations Human Settlements Program. As we know, UN Habitat has been a key player. So please tell me a little bit about how was your day yesterday? Were you tired by the end of the day? Well, I have not feel tired because my day has not ended. I continue to work and it's hard being here with such an amazing opportunity. But I would like to thank you again. I would like to say hello and welcome to everyone here, Graciela, Paloma, the authorities that are here with us today. Thank you very much for the attention that you have given us and, of course, the support that we have felt from you. I would like to give you first a not so good news, and after that, I would like us to discuss something related to this. Unfortunately, in 2024, from the UN, we issued a report on the progress of the SDGs. What this report says, which is a report that you can find online, mentions that almost half of the 17 SDGs have a minimum to a moderate progress. That means that one third, 30% of the SDGs is basically stagnated or in a regression status. And that is not positive. If we analyze the SDG that UN Habitat has to focus on, which is related to human settlements, communities, urban development, we would see that there is a very big possibility that we are not going to be able to achieve the 11th SDG, and that is included in the report. If we analyze the first SDG, which is related to universal access for every single one to an adequate, safe household, basic public services, the improvement of informal settlements, we would also see that it would be very, very hard for us to achieve the first SDG. We are way too far from what we would have expected. We have over 1 million or 1 billion people living in informal settlements. If we do not have or make a big progress on this soon, this number is going to soon get to 2 billion.
If we look at another KPI, 11.7, about green spaces, accessible and affordable, especially for women, for children, disabled people, the elderly, only 45% out of the urban residents in the world have access to public spaces of quality public spaces. That is to say, if we do not work consistently and continuously, and if we do not develop a collective action plan for the reversal of this process, we are not going to be successful to achieve the 2030 agenda objectives. But the good news is that, as I mentioned yesterday, it was recently approved after the UN Assembly in the future summit. We approved a pact. This pact includes certain commitments. For instance, it recognizes the importance of the cities. It recognizes the importance of the housing, the household for the new urban agenda. There is a pact where countries will reassume this commitment. In this same document, um, there is an option to the significance as well as a recommendation to listen the local governments as well as regional governments, because we know that to reach this objective we need to look at local solutions as well as we need to support the participation, the local participation. So the news is not as good as we could think, but we need to make progress by signing the future pact between the countries, by looking at the energy deposited in this event, the continuous efforts of our allies, members of UN Habitat in Mexico. I think we can develop this collective pact in order to look attentively the objective that is supporting our actions in the cities, specifically the the objective number 11. And this is summoning us to provide more relevance to dialogues and debates that you are going to develop today and tomorrow. We are attentively listening to the reports of these debates in order to incorporate them in our working processes. Thank you so much and have a good day. Thank you so much, Ana Claudia. Thank you, Ana Claudia Rosbach, for giving us this context. And we know that in the adversity we may find solutions, and that is what we are going to be discussing today. And please let me introduce Fernando González Salinas, Urban Development and Public Works from the government of the state of Querétaro, who is going to address a keynote speech and the initial words and kickoff words for this event beyond the 2030 Agenda World Habitat Day. Good morning, everyone. I'm really thankful for being here. This is the second day of this event because additionally, we have the UN participation here. Thank you so much, Ana Claudia Rosbach. Thank you, Ambassador Graciela from Foreign Affairs Ministry. Thank you so much, Paloma Palacios. Thank you. She is our Querétaro ambassador in Mexico City. Thank you so much, Paloma, for being here. And I have to make a public greeting. Everything has been possible because of Paloma on our side. So thank you, Jairo Morales, Mayor of the Huimilpan Municipality. Thank you so much for being here. Gerardo, thank you for being here. Gerardo is a direct representative from Felifer on behalf of Felifer, our mayor in Querétaro. Rodrigo Mesa. Rodrigo, thank you so much for being here. This is one of the neighboring town halls and also from the Corregidora town hall. I have to say that we have the four main town halls here in Mexico, the representation of the four here in Mexico. Thank you so much for being here. Let me say hello, everyone. Let me thank the UN, the authorities, the ambassadors, and the youth, and all the people here gathered here today with us. Thank you for making it possible. It's a pleasure to welcome this event beyond the 2030 Agenda, a space to dialogue and discuss key topics for the development of our cities: sustainability, inclusion, the climate change, household, housing, mobility, all the topics having to do with urbanization. Thank you so much for being here and for participating. This celebration is now taking place in the Querétaro city, and we are, in Querétaro city, the 65% of the population of Mexico is concentrated here. By taking, well, it's around, and the average age is around 36 years. It's a new blood, it's a young blood making new decisions. And I would like to make a comparison that with regard to 3 years ago, we reduced in average 10 years the number of years that to take a public administration. So that is to say that it's good that young people are thinking of occupying or taking public positions, because they are kind of interested in getting a public position, in helping the community. So it is necessary to stand out that the advanced society, it's important to take into consideration the youth. Yesterday you saw it, the objective was fulfilled. Young people took the floor, they shared their ideas, and they commented with the expectation of achieving it. So this is the legacy that we need to leave behind. So in this forum called Beyond the 2030 Agenda, we place at the core of this debate the youth. Youngsters in this event, which is going to have continuity today. The most important part here is the citizenship participation, the governance, and the participation and collaboration of the youth. Everything is having to do with the decision-making process of the youth, of reasoning, of responsibility about other people's things. We are where we live. We create the places where we live. We cohabit, and under this view, we have the role to implement necessary changes to improve our cities as well as our lifestyle on a day-to-day basis. Yesterday, part of the discussions was that 50% of the youth had to travel using the public transportation, whether walking or using a bicycle. And it was mentioned that the cities were not prepared with this transportation system. So we need to undertake these topics. And I am going to repeat some of the words of the speakers yesterday. We need to create happy cities. We need to do that for everyone. Today we have the opportunity to become change agents. Youngsters have the responsibility as well as the moral commitment with the future society to be the change agents. People, in other places it is being done. In Mexico we are working hard for this to happen. And I do thank all the participants as well as all the stakeholders to participate in this World Habitat Day, in which Querétaro has been in the World Showcase. And I am sure and convinced that with the critical view and responsible of the youth, we are going to start with initiatives that are going to address the world efforts to look after water, disposal of solid waste, transportation, governance in general as well. Thank you so much for having me here. And if you allow me, without any further ado, we are going to inaugurate. Please, we are going to invite the representative of the mayor of Querétaro, Graciela Gómez Garcia, Ana Claudia Rosbach. Please come forward to officially inaugurate this World Habitat Day, the second day. Because in order to, officially and formally we are going to inaugurate this session, the activities beyond the 2030 agenda. Thank you so much. With all these representatives and mayors of the four town halls, neighboring town halls, and with all my pleasure and accompanied by the federal and state local authorities and the UN Secretary. Today, the time being 9:42 on the 8th day, Tuesday, October 2024, I declare formally inaugurated the World Habitat Day Beyond the 2030 Agenda event with the expectation that everything that is being said today is going to be useful for everyone. So it is officially declared the second day of activities beyond the 2030 agenda. Thank you to our authorities for participating, and please take your seats to enjoy the video that we are about to watch. Thank you to the representatives of all the town halls, the neighboring town halls, the local, state and federal authorities as well. Thank you. It was very, very important what the architect was saying. We have more than 65% of the population in our state. So it is important to have you here, and we encourage you to carry on contributing with your ideas to make this day a fruitful one. I am going to undertake a little bit, Jairo, in the event of taking office. I would like to share something. Well, there is a small representation of young people, but there is a little child, and he was facing the mayor of Huimilpan, and he said to him, "I am Jairo, and I am going to become a mayor for childhood and youth." Maybe he's here. Maybe here in the audience we have the future mayors or presidents or governors. We don't know. So that's right. But okay, without further ado, please, we invite you to watch the video to start with the activities of the day. Beyond the Agenda 2030 provides a space to exchange knowledge, determine commitments, and establish principles for the sustainable development of cities, giving voice to those who have mobilized and act in favor of better urban futures. Achieving sustainability in urban context is a collective commitment where youth, as agents of change, have positioned themselves at the forefront of the fight against climate change and in favor of environmental protection. Collaboration and knowledge exchange among multi-sectoral youth networks working for a sustainable urban future have directed efforts and strategies to mobilize resources and create alliances, thus advancing the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. Today, the SDG 6, clean water and sanitation, becomes relevant by involving youth in promoting equitable access to safe drinking water and sanitation services in urban areas. Water is vital for biodiversity and essential for our existence. In cities, access to safe drinking water is a benchmark of development, health, and quality of life. However, ensuring that every individual has equitable access to safe drinking water and sanitation services has become one of the greatest challenges. Collaborations with government agencies, the private sector, and civil organizations allow youth and civil society to address local water and urbanization challenges through initiatives for the conservation, maintenance, and care of resources in urban contexts. Today, we seek to catalyze actions led by youth towards sustainable urbanization through a collaborative declaration and concrete commitments, as well as initiatives proposed by participating youth to implement the declaration at local, national, and international levels. Youth are taking action because solutions are needed for a sustainable future, but also because solutions are needed for a sustainable present. Like great waves, youth gain strength, and like a river, their mobilization covers great distances. Well, this was the video. Thank you so much, our dear friends. Agenda 2030 adopted by the UN organization in September 2015 to start a future, a dignified future, as well as a present for everyone. And this is the start of the agenda, today's agenda, and this is the time of stating the action plan, the commitment of the social context to generate a dialogue, to generate concrete actions, specific actions, to state them as tangible solutions to have an impact, positive impact in our communities. And that is why I ask you to, an applause to Liliana Alvarez Villegas, Director of Projects and Construction in Sites and Monuments. Welcome. I am going to give you some more synopsis. She's architect and cultural manager, expert in preservation of patrimony. She has worked in the Franciscan missions in Querétaro. She is director of projects and construction in sites and monuments in the state of Querétaro. She manages the site of the Franciscan missions site before the UNESCO. Thank you so much, Liliana, for being here today with us. And another panelist who is going to participate is Dr. Alfonso Javier Iracheta Senecorta, researcher of the Mexiquense Institution. He is architect and urbanist, director of the Mexiquense Institute. He is founder of the Faculty of Urban Development Institution and UN Habitat, and he has participated with the World Bank, and he has led lectures in 24 countries, author of 39 books, and is a member of different institutions and societies. Thank you so much, Director, for being here with us. And as yesterday, we have presented leader women, and through their participation, we have been improving different systems. Let's welcome Katia Jimenez Jaime. She is a lawyer and environmental activist, and she is also a member of the Water Consulting Committee, and she is a participant of the Queretaro River Bank. She has been working in the public sector for more than 15 years, and she participates in Querétaro and Plaza de Armas newspapers. And she's a great woman and a great friend. Thank you so much and welcome. And also, please welcome one of our awarded members yesterday. Alan, he is member of Allen Kong Architects. He was awarded with the Scroll of Honor yesterday. She was awarded from Allen Kong Architecture, and he is lifetime member of the Australian Architect Institute. He is internationally recognized in different sustainable projects for accessible and affordable housing dedicated to disabled people. Thank you, Alan. Welcome again. A round of applause for him as well. And let's get started to our dialogue roundtable. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. This is no surprise that the panel, beyond the 2030 agenda, deals with social actions. This is about looking after each other, being able to use our intellectual material and temporary resources to think of others. And here we have three great examples. This is why we say that social action is the highest expression of the citizens, and it's for free. Today, we see that the youth lead more and more the social action, certain social actions. Today, we have three personalities that have opened the road, the path, which is not easy. Today it's not an easy topic either, but in this path they have left lots of tools for these new generations. I do ask you to start the first block by talking about the strategies and the actions that have that you have achieved along your career. I know that it is complicated and in a few minutes to describe the hard work of so many years. Talk about how you have been achieving the sustainability objectives. Please, Licenciada Katia, the floor is yours. Thank you so much, Liliana. I am thrilled to be here and to share this panel with you. I am thrilled to receive here in Querétaro the World Habitat Day. Yesterday we were mentioning that Querétaro was in the spotlight, the global agenda, because we were the host of the World Beyond the 2030 agenda. And also this year, Querétaro was also in the national agenda because we are suffering from drought, and it is the territory that is most suffering from that. So this type of phenomenon is calling us to have to raise an awareness sense, to be alert, as Ana Claudia was saying a few minutes ago. We need to put or to create a collective effort. We need to raise awareness. The transversal policies have to go round to protect our natural resources. It has been detected that by 2050, the world population is going to live in 70% in cities. And it is quite encouraging to say why the youth should be involved, because also 70% of the population is comprised by youth. They are our hope, they're our expectation. I think, Liliana, this is a topic, Alfonso, architect, that haven't been communicated correctly. We haven't transferred this sense of urgency correctly, and I think the only way to do it is to do it. Not to feel tired of saying what is going on, not feeling tired of what is the expectation in the future. Yesterday it was very impressive to watch the video, the first video, because we think, what are we going to leave to the next generations? So this day exists or was created to honor one of the main rights that we have, which is the right to live in a dignified house, in a dignified home, which are going to be the actions that we are going to take to have the right to live in a dignified home. And when I say everyone, I'm not only saying us as human beings, but I'm also talking about the species, the animals, the flora and the fauna, to understand that without water, we are not going to have anything. And let's not talk about economical growth or progress. Without water, we're nothing. So I think this is a topic that we need to think of and that we need to get involved. We shouldn't say, oh, that is not my job. And I think, well, in the metropolitan area in Querétaro, we have very young mayors, and hopefully they raise awareness about this topic, and we as citizens, we need to get involved and participate more. And I think that is the only way to achieve this, and to raise awareness and to demand and to look for the change, agents of change, and to look to protect our natural resources and to convert it into a strategy on a day-to-day basis. Thank you, Katia. Yeah, without water, we're nothing. We couldn't live without that. Not only us, but the planet. So your work at the council is very important for this state. And now, let's carry on with someone who is very important for this country. Doctor, please tell us about your career, what you have done. Hello, good morning, everyone. So, after listening yesterday, all the youth in particular, and from listening 2 or 3 times Ana Claudia, the executive director of UN Habitat, I decided to do some adjustments to my speech. And I would like to submit before your consideration 3 sentences that I think are key. The first one is product of a book that it's called This is Useless, that was edited by the Foundation Frederick Ever in a social and ecologic transformation project. I participated in this project from 2016 to 2020. This project is focusing on the limitations that we are facing right now. We are now in a destruction stage, and we are losing the ecosystems that are endangering the basis of the present life and the future generations. Second sentence from my dear friend Victor Toledo. He is well known in Mexico. The future will be ecological or it will not be. And the third one, where Enrique Dussel, he passed away a few weeks ago, before the systemic global crisis, one of the essential priority is to understand that ecology is not a chapter of the economy, but this belongs to ecology. So I start talking about and wondering what is going on in Mexico City and all other cities in Latin America, but mainly in Mexico. The city has become the center of the social crisis, spatial and environmental crisis, but also in the core and the center of the possibilities and the hope of transforming these problems.
Cities hold a huge responsibility. Why? Because by using the car excessively, expanding souls in rural environments without having in consideration the environment, the architecture, the environment around rural spaces such as forest, desert, oceans, the concentration of solid waste and the poor disposal of waste, and finally the consumption and contamination of all of the hydric resources and in general the natural resources is critical. But all of the combination of all of these factors basically allow us to generate a synergy. Why? Because in the cities there is the power of politics, the power of knowledge of the society who is actually concerned on the transformation of our country and of Latin America in general. However, the most critical factor that I would like to highlight, which is something that I will probably be able to discuss in more depth later, is that we have different strategies and programs that are being implemented. But the question is, are we certain on what we are doing? Because after having worked on dozens of plans and strategies, and after watching how these programs are implemented, I can conclude that we don't have certainties because we are not taking measures, because we are not updating the information. And let's be very clear, whatever is not measured can hardly be planned and addressed and transformed for a benefit to the society and the environment. So, during the second part of this roundtable, I would like to share a couple of ideas on projects and concrete ideas that we have been implemented in the country with the support of UN Habitat, which I believe are one of the ways or paths that we have to follow in order to de-think what we have been doing up to this point, such as the excessive consumption without any commitment to the environment. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yes, as you well mentioned, without measures, without indicators, we're hardly going to get anywhere else. I would now like to give the floor to Alan Kong. Thank you very much for being here with us today. As you were told and acknowledged, yesterday, you have been doing an amazing job on sustainability. So please, whenever you're ready.
As an architect, the 3 points you wanted me to address are my experience and the strategy I've used and the commitment to the SDGs 2030. So the experience that I have in working with communities and social participation leads me to understand that architects have to have a range of abilities in terms of working with the community. So different communities I've worked with, communities that have full operating systems in terms of they have their methods of control of spaces and things like that. The example of this is a small village that I worked on in northern Afghanistan where it had been destroyed by an earthquake and everything was intact except the buildings. So we went in working with the local people there and on a self-help basis where they rebuilt their own houses using earthquake-resistant technology. So that's where we had to only teach the technical aspects of a project and introduced other things like windmills for water supply and more irrigation and sanitation. So the next type of project that I worked on is probably completely different to that. Was for aged homeless men who had pretty much lost all hope of what they would want to envisage in their lives. They were all living in a low-budget hotel in Melbourne in a sort of forgotten industrial park. So instead of working with them and saying exactly what do you want, we just sat with them and listened and employed a technique, deep listening. So we just understand and move with them to understand what they need to work with their lives. And so that in that role, architects were a bit of a advocate to try and understand, and from their position, understand what they needed for their housing. The take-home message there that we took was, we want a door that we've got a key to that we can lock to keep ourselves safe. So that was one example. Now I'll go to the strategies I used, and I mentioned, just a second, the deep listening. So to work with people, you need to be understanding, and not come with your architectural views. I mean, we all have when we listen, we all of a sudden start to design and sort of work out and then move along the path to try and fit in what the people are saying into some vision that we have for an architectural solution. I say, put the architectural solution behind and listen to what's needed, what you're being told. So further in the strategies, architects need to have the full sense of science and research, because it's science that backs all the sustainable issues So we have to understand all the energy requirements, how the water works, what the material's like. So when the sales rep comes along and tells you, oh, this piece of material is wonderful, you have the understanding and the science to listen and refute some of their arguments, their sales arguments. So, and also, that's the science of materials, science of energy, but you also need to know the psychological requirements of the people who are going to live into your buildings. And there's a great interplay between the understanding the psychology of people and their material needs and how to shape their environment. So pay attention to that part too. And don't fall to the idea that the architect has some sort of universe-given understanding of what everybody needs, which is another, I think, failing of architecture where we go, we know, just we'll lead the way. I think we need to have more humility and understand what society is asking us to do. So the final strategy of the 2023 goals is a term that we use from Indigenous Australians, and that's the term of caring for country. Now, country is not just the name of Mexico or Australia. The country is everything. It's the skies, the land, the water, all the creatures, all the interdependencies of everything. So the simple phrase of caring for country, and country will care for you. So we're a part of all of the environment, and we are responsible. So we're doing most of the damage. So we've got to pick up our game and care for country. We're right. Thanks.
Muchísimas gracias, Alan.
Thank you very much, Alan. And yes, definitely, social action is not a spontaneous action. It is an act that must include technology, knowledge, emotion, and you said something very, very important. Listening to what the other truly needs and wants. That is core. Thank you very much. Now, I would like to ask you to please make a commitment based on the objective of the World Habitat Day towards the 2030 agenda. Thank you very much, Lily. As part of the Water Council, we are very clear on the next step. Our foundation, as I said a little while ago, has been creating and generating or raising a collective awareness through the Blue Agenda, which is an agenda that we have been promoting since the previous electoral campaign in 2024. Now, facing this new tenure, we are planning on building the first water program in Querétaro. We have all of the scenarios that we are facing very clear. We know that we are facing a drought. We know that we have to be fully sensible with the urban design because no design should ever harm the planet. We need to seek to protect all water resources. We need to protect basins and all water resources, and we have to continue to motivate the people to integrate actions that work towards the achievement of the 6th SDG of the 2030 Agenda. One of the actions that we have been implementing is actually a very innovative program, which is the Batan program, which seeks to exchange water. That means to transfer water from one place to another. We were actually planning on doing a third aqueduct which intended, of course, to place water from one place to the next. However, that was a path with no return. Therefore, this Batan program represents a more innovative aspect and strategy because this is something that has never been seen before. This project is encouraging the circular economy of the water. And I believe that with this, we are setting a precedent in Querétaro and in the country in general. Another one of the projects that we have is an eco-friendly project which seeks to restore the Querétaro River environment. So instead of keeping it as it is, we can give it its river characteristics back so we can turn it again into a natural river. So these are the types of programs that we are seeking, that we are working after, and we want to give Querétaro the opportunity to continue facing the challenges that it currently has so that we can also implement eco-friendly strategies that can give us a better life quality. As Victor Toledo was saying, as well as Alfonso, the future needs to be sustainable. Otherwise, there is no future. That is the vision that we share from the council and that we are trying to share. We also need to encourage public agendas. We need to encourage people and decision makers in order to make better decisions. We know that governors don't have to do it alone. Governors can rely on experts, on people that actually know about this, and that's what we are trying to do. Thank you very much. As we said, Claudia, your work is very, very important. We know that through this social work, we are going to encourage a lot of people to participate. Doctor, in 3 minutes, please tell us your strategies. I will try to do it in 3 minutes. I don't know if you remember, but at the beginning, I told you about certainty. Do we have the certainty that what we are doing in terms of urban development is right? Well, my answer in general would be no. We don't have the certainty. We continue to urbanize spaces that should not be occupied. We continue to put land and create wetlands in land that shouldn't have wetlands. And we're going to see the catastrophic results of this because we continue to give the wrong perspective to these challenges. My commitment with UN Habitat and my country for many, many years has relied on 3 pillars, and I can only name them because I don't have enough time. But first, I am trying to promote a measuring national system, a system that analyzes and certifies the urban sustainable development in the city. And through this, I address specifically the mayors and mayoresses of the state governments that have the responsibility of planning and executing these strategies. But it is not only about implementing the strategies, it is about measuring the results so that we actually know if we are succeeding or we are failing. It's not only about getting a star stick on our foreheads, it's about actually knowing that we are making things right. And this, of course, increases accountability and transparency. And listen, I am talking about a system that allows us to measure how our cities are evolving, not our governments, our cities, because of course this represents a major challenge. So what I suggest is to implement a mechanism that publicly allows us to understand how cities are evolving. And the second aspect, I would propose an e-learning platform. That means that online government functionaries can train themselves on how to create a climate action plan. And this, of course, with the support of this global pact on climate and energy that of course includes Mexico. We already designed the platform. We already work with 18 municipalities, and the idea of this is for all of the municipalities in Mexico to have an action plan. Now, thirdly, we just founded an organization which is called Extreme Heat Mexico, Calor Extremo Mexico. And we did this because we saw that environmental deaths increase whenever there is a heat wave or extreme temperatures in cities or other phenomena such as hurricanes or earthquakes. We already started implementing this program in 5 cities in Mexico, such as Mexicali, Hermosillo, up north of the country, which reach temperatures of 48, 50 degrees Celsius. And we noticed that from 2015 to the present, the temperature raised 2 degrees. So from here to 250, we're going to see a second increase of at least 2 degrees, and rain precipitation is decreasing. So imagine this scenario. So with this, I would like to close this remark. My proposal is for us to be able all of this to be able to measure all of this in Querétaro and in Mexico in general, so that we can create better strategies that allow us to address extreme heat. But all of these strategies need to be aligned to a climate action plan, and that climate action plan should be also aligned to the urban development plan, with the environmental protection plan, with the risk atlas. And this is something that has not been done, and it is pressing for us to take immediate action. Thank you very much. And that is quite a commitment. As you mentioned, social action must be at the core of all decisions. Alan, do you have a final remark for us?
Oh, I'll be quick. In Australia, we're fortunate. We've got a First Nations community who've been caring for the country for between 60 and 80,000 years. So we have a knowledge base that we can work with and we can draw on. So in my role as co-director of Indigenous Architecture and Design Australia, my commitment to 2030 is to try and introduce more of our knowledge into the mainstream so we can build a way together that's better for the future for all of us.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Alan. And yes, I do believe that the objective and commitment that we should all make is trying to build not only a better future, but also a better present. Now, very briefly, I would like to give the possibility of asking 3 questions from the public. If anyone has a question, please raise your hand.
Todo quedó muy claro.
No, al parecer.
Or maybe everything was very clear. Well, apparently there are no questions, so again, in conclusion, at the core of every decision-making process should be social action. We would like to encourage all of the youth to continue to participate in this effort. Thank you very much, everyone, for your participation, and thank you very much for all of the efforts that you do on every single day, sorry.
Si nos reunimos para la foto oficial, por favor.
We are going to take a picture. If we can please come to the center of the stage.
Ahí listísima la foto oficial.
Excellent. What an amazing photo and what an amazing round table that we witnessed. Thank you very much, and again, let's applaud them for their amazing ideas and the amazing remarks that they shared with us today. And Now, Almita, let's continue with our program for today. In the framework of the forum Beyond the 2030 Agenda, we would like to thank you, and we would also like to welcome everyone who is just joining us through the social platforms that we enabled. I would also like to thank our simultaneous interpreters. As I told you yesterday, we have live simultaneous interpretation in English, French, Arab, Mandarin Chinese, and Russian, and I am not going to leave Russian out. Sorry I could not see you yesterday, but hello, Russian interpreters. Thank you very much for the amazing work that you are doing, and thank you very much for everyone who is joining us through the different channels. Thank you very much, and please be welcome. We also have sign interpreters. I think that you are seeing them on screen, so also we are very thankful for them. Now let's continue with the program for today. We are now going to welcome a very special guest. This is the first conference that we are going to hear in this scenario, and this person has an extraordinary life story. I urge you to find a little bit more information on this person, but we are going to welcome Carlos Moreno. Carlos Moreno is a researcher and professor that has been internationally acknowledged because of his urban proposals, such as 15-minute cities and 30-minute territories. He has promoted sustainable solutions for cities of the 21st century, and he led the international launching of sustainable proximities in collaboration with UN Habitat and C4Cities. He has a book entitled 15-Minute Cities, which offers a vision of more sustainable and inhabitable cities. So without any further ado, I would like to please welcome Carlos Moreno. Welcome, Carlos. Thank you very much for being with us today, and of course for being a part of the Beyond the 2030 Agenda Forum. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much to all of my colleagues, Fernando, David, Alfonso. I would run out of time if I said hello and thank you to each and every single one of the people who is here, who I deeply appreciate and that have invited me to be a part of this forum. Thank you to everyone who is here either in person or online. And I would like to welcome the youth, women and men, the hope of our continent, the hope of our world. I was born in Colombia. When I was 20, I moved to Europe. I have been living in France for the past 45 years. I am now a French citizen. However, I continue to be a citizen of the world, and I continue to be a Latin American citizen. And it is a pleasure for me to share this space with you today. In the framework of the World Habitat Day and the Forum Beyond the 2030 Agenda, I would like to highlight that my worldwide contribution is a reflection as a scientist, as a researcher, and as a citizen. And what I urge people to do is to rethink our cities. We need to start integrating a revolutionary vision. We need to be able to think of ways in which we can face the new challenges that the 21st century poses to us. This is the so-called proximity revolution, and this revolution suggests a way in which we can rethink our cities, territories, and life environment. And I talk about cities in order to define urban spaces with a higher density. When I talk about a territory, I refer to the lower to medium density areas that of course constitute a very important tissue of this network and that are very important for our life environments. I would also like to highlight that the 15-minute city concept has been discussed all over the world. And in reality, it is very important for us not to focus on the number. Let's not focus on that 15. Sometimes people get obsessed and they say, no, it was not 15, it was 28, it was 18, it was 17. And some people talk about this very seriously, even. But let's not focus on that. Focus on how important it is for us to change the way in which we live, in which we commute, in which we relate to our neighbors, to the people that we still don't know, that we still haven't met, in a happy proximity. I talk about 15 minutes because 15 minutes, it's not far and it's also not close. It allows us to identify a new possible way in which we can coexist. But even if we talk about 20 or 30 minutes, nothing is going to happen, especially in those territories that still have lower density areas that might take a little bit longer. What we are trying to change here is the way in which we live, and this was adopted worldwide. This concept has been discussed over the 5 continents, in the bigger cities, in the bigger countries, in small, big cities, in rural spaces, in towns. All of these spaces have already implemented this concept. Paris. Paris, for instance, has mentioned that thanks to the effort that the mayoress has done, and who was able to interpret my research, my concepts, my definitions, she was able to put this in a strategy that radically transformed this city. Not so long ago, with the Olympic Games, the world was witness of this, and we realized that it was in fact possible to transform a city. A city that integrates new spaces, new life spaces, new breathing, mobility, low carbon spaces, new coexisting spaces, natural, cultural, health spaces, new urban spaces that we can definitely conquer. When I first proposed this concept in 2016, a lot of people said that is not real. That is a utopia, and we are not going to be able to do that because we have jobs, we have places to be. I think that this person shouldn't stay by a good book and, just educate themselves instead of doing anything different. But no, there's not such a thing as something that cannot be done.
This concept is not a theory anymore. It's a reality for many people who are changing their to-do because local governments, territorial governments have decided to implement this policy as a urban humanistic policy, territory urbanism policy, transforming the city within an infrastructure to buy more motorways, to sell more cars, to sell more buses. There are many town halls having very old buses, but to have lifespan recreation places, but to have a quality of life, giving us certain happiness in our day-to-day lives. Therefore, we are reivindicating globally what we call a polycentric, happy polycentric proximity. What do I mean by polycentric? But that means not in any place and in anywhere we need to have access to services. We're talking about to what the former president of Uruguay, our dearest Pepe Mujica, was telling us. In the cities, the life space, the to get up late, to get late to home. With less time to spend with the family, that meant that we have been stolen the most essential parts of our lives, affection. So the reality is inscribed in this phrase. This is a revolution of affection. This is a revolution of love. In Latin America, there is a tradition, literature tradition, that has taken this word, topophilia, Garcia Marquez here in Mexico, Juan Rulfo, Ernesto Sabato. Topophilia is to love the place where you live, to love the place, to create an affection between the place, the inhabitants and the people living there, cohabiting. Topophilia is one of the key elements in this proximity revolution because it means to learn to love and respect places in which we live. Now, our dwelling place is not a place to sleep, but to live. We have accepted that our place of live became or transformed into dormitories. This rhythm is chrono-urbanism. This is called the relationship I have with time. If I ask to raise your hand, to give me the time, because you know what time is it, because you know you have your cell phones. But do you have free time? Do you have free time? No, of course not. So it's an affection revolution, and of course it's the urban time revolution. It's chrono-urbanism. And to complete it, we need to ask ourselves, why do we construct, why do we build, why do we have to accelerate, to speed up, to go beyond? We're talking about chronotopia. Topo means place. Utopia, Thomas More book, is no place, it's nowhere. But places exist. And chronotopia means that instead of having buildings to serve for one single activity, we should have more compact places to serve different purposes. That is about chronotopia. Youth, topophilia. Please write it down. Revolution of affection, evolution, revolution of time, chronotopia, revolution of places for multifunction purposes. So today, with this revolution, that we have to achieve with the places, with the private sector, we need to transform our existence and the way we live. It is about reconquering, not reconquering the right to the city, but the right to the dignified life, the useful time, quality time, affection time, the time of the intelligent use of the places that are being built, the time in which the work is not only a place that will have it, I will lose my life, but it's a place where I can feel myself realized. Therefore, we would like to conquer the right to dignified life, house by house, household by household, quartier by quartier. We need to integrate. We need to think that living in a place is not having square meters. We live inside square meters, but we can also have a life outside the square meters. We need to wonder, how do I dwell inside a place and how do I live outside a place? And for that reason, the proximity revolution is looking for reconciliation, life quality with sustained development. Around the world, many cities have implemented or are implemented this major step that means to reduce the carbon emissions. This is a priority, that it's to do a different type of transportation, to leave our car, our private car, behind, to walk short distances. And that means for the developers to stop building in remote places in order to prevent the use of cars. And this also means to have workplaces where people do not lose their lives to win it, to generate neighborhoods, to generate or create friendship, to create relationships, getting us together and giving us that sensitivity that we're looking for. The proximity revolution, what it's looking for is sustainability and life quality. In a few weeks, we're going to be in Cairo, in the World Forum Urbain Mondial. I am going to do some keynote lectures there. And everything starts at local level, but this forum is under the slogan, everything starts at local level. We need to develop local actions for sustainable development of cities and communities. I would like to talk about my concept with these bones. This bone is a history bone. It has history. Please, youngsters, keep in mind this bone. It is broken, but it is healed as well. You can see it there. Some anthropologists found it in Africa, and this is the hominoid bone when the man was standing up and he broke his leg. And the American anthropologist Margaret Mead in New York, in a radio program, a student asked her, "Ma'am, Mrs. Margaret, what is the first symbol of human civilization?" And Margaret said, this broken femur. This is the symbol of civilization. Why? Because when that hominid broke his leg, if nobody was helping him, the beast would have eaten him up. To heal that bone, someone took the time to spend time with him and help him to heal the bone. That's the story of humanity. That is the start of the story of the humanity. Those helping the man, the hominid, with due care, that is a DNA of civilization. It is not about the number of pots, of ceramic pots that we find in a cave. It's not the number of golden rings that we have found in a place. It's the due care that we provide to each other up to getting to this major element, to look after our neighbors. When you buried a dear one, you didn't leave him alone. This is the proximity revolution. It's not only about care, it's the revolution of welfare. In this time, in the 21st century, in the Anthropocene, the crude Anthropocene, where we talk about humanity is undermining human natural resources, indispensable natural resources to have a proper life, in which the CO2 emission, because of our daily activities, are generating a CO2 mass that it's leading us inevitably to climate disruptions, that it's endangering the life of our cities and territories, and even our civilization at the end of this century, if we carry on in this curve that we are living. And the threat of 21st century about climate change is closely linked to urbanization and to our way of life. In this continent, in Latin America, we are the second most populated continent, more than Europe, with 70%. But let's take into consideration that when I migrated from America to Europe, there was 30% urbans and 30% rurals, and nowadays it's 20% less rurals and 84% urbans in 40 years. So the growth has been outrageous and that has transformed our cities into places that sometimes are chaotic with a lot of informality and in absence of basic services sometimes. So the question I ask to the new generations, to the youth, in which city do you like or do you want to live? When the 21st World Cup was celebrated in 2015 in Europe, and in 2030 there are going to be 30. So in which city do you want to live? In cities, unbreathable cities, in cities where there's no water, no green spaces, in cities where we are living one on top of the other, just to transport yourself to go to work without visiting your family, without seeing your relatives? That is the answer that we need to give ourselves. Youth, mayors, private sector, this is a common destination that we need to face. 20% of the world population, 600,000 million of the population nowadays are having a very deprived household. That is the reality in the world nowadays. What are we going to do in front of this situation that it's continuing in deep deterioration of the vital spaces, not only the households, but to the right to the dignified life. Housing is not a ceiling and four walls. We're not looking for housing. What we're looking for is to have a dignified housing in a social environment, providing us dignity, social inclusion, welfare, with safety. A ceiling is not enough to say, I live in the city. There are many people living in a nice house, but they're not living in the city because they have no access to these key resources. So nowadays, our proximity revolution, what it is looking for is to say that housing is more than a ceiling and four walls, that housing are services that need to be accompanied everywhere, that we cannot be living in centrifugal cities that are putting us away more and more to the services. We cannot be living in cities as giant metronomes, like a giant pendulums, taking us inside and outside in a very overwhelming world. This has been characterized this century has been characterized in its second half in a whirling problem, and we have put people on top of each other, and we are overpopulating our cities, and we are creating segregation, spatial injustice, people living in buildings without any comfort and services, far away from the cities, living the mother centaurs, minotaurs, half animal, half person, half human. And we have been living temporary injustice by stealing time from people. The Greek used to have chronos, measuring time, kairos, measuring creativity and intention, and aion, measuring the relationship with the universe, measuring our spirituality. We lost kairos and aion. We are stuck to chronos. ticking. The clock is ticking all the time, but the time is being stolen from us because we are running out of time. We are creating with a temporary injustice new social inclusion. This century is characterized for having cities not only with deprived housing, but with social vulnerability generating insecurity, product of spatial injustice and temporary injustice. That is the reality in many cities in the world. Even in my city, in Paris, it's more acute at the south and mostly in Latin America. And for that reason, this concept has taken precedence in the world. And I was awarded with the scroll of distinction last year, the scroll of honor 2 years ago, and because I was participating in a researcher, investigation community, private sector, citizen, and this community think that we need to build a new narrative, allowing us to mobilize together for the sustainable urban development, contribute to implement a new agenda. But this agenda is, well, time is running out. 2030 is round the corner, so we need to go beyond 2030 in order to be able to have a development giving us a perspective on how to knit an urban world in which we can close the big gaps that we are causing from a long time ago. Therefore, it is not only about books, it is a matter of work with local governments, as the mayor Ana Hidalgo did when I started working with her. These statements have gone around the world. What is the type of city we want to live at? In a Paris, in a mineral Paris, or with a proximity in a proximity Paris, with services, with clean air, in which we can offer or provide children safe spaces to live and play in the streets, in which we can have short circuits to provide the farmers a space to sell their products without an intermediary. That is called the 15-minute country that the mayor called the backbone of her policy in her second mandate, in which I participated and inspired this route that we were building. Beyond the mayor of Paris, this 15-minute city model has opened a new dialogue about models and urban practices at a global scale in a key moment, because we are in a planetary threshold. We don't know where we're going to. We don't know where are we going to end. Are we going to be in the inferno of temperature? Are we going to manage to stabilize that? Are we going to manage to provide or give our planet the opportunity to stabilize? The planet is not needing us. We need the planet. It's the other way around. And the planet will exist because of us, because the planet existed even before us. But the place in which the planet Earth is going to fall nowadays depend on our lifestyle, depend on each of us, in which in the place we are. We need to change. That is a must, because we are getting to the red line, and the cities are in the heart of this situation, because they are the ones generating 80% of wealth and poverty. They are the ones consuming 70% of energy, and they are the ones generating the 90% of CO2 emissions. Climate change and biodiversity cannot be seen without understanding how we manage this paradigm change at urbanization level. Latin America has been doing this for a century. of permanent urbanization, increasing its temperature. It's been more than 300 million people. After 2000 or year 2K, there was an impact because of what is going on at climate level, including people losing their homes, but also their lives. These images are very popular in Latin America. This is what's happening on a day-to-day basis. Nowadays, we have Milton, the hurricane. President Biden has said this morning in Florida, it is a matter of death or life. You need to abandon Florida. This morning, that's what he said. Each hurricane turns into category 5. They are speeding up. Each hurricane is even more violent. And the cost of reconstruction is $3.4 billion. And Acapulco is also suffering because of the devastation that was left by Otis last year, and this year it was another hurricane who devastated Acapulco. The climate is taking the business away. At the German Research Center, there is an economic impact in the climate change, and they provide this figure: $38 trillion in damage per year. That is the impact of climate change, as well as the loss of 20% of business that are established or settled every year, simply because we do not do anything. That's why in the Latin American country there is the urgency to change the paradigm of our lifestyle. I know that you are going to say this is a utopia, Moreno, please stay in Paris, and please don't bother us here, we are in control. You may say whatever you want, but we need to take action before it is too late to react. North American cities have had lots of inertia in inequality. Urban inequality in Latin America is really complex. Because in Latin America we have thought about the housing right, the right to a housing, but we haven't thought about the right to living in a city. Climate change is not only to fight poverty and inequality, it's to open a different path in our day-to-day mindset on how we are going to live. You need to understand that we are living in the 21st century the same way as we were living 90 years ago, when the first automobiles were produced by Henry Ford. You need to be aware that Latin America had railroads everywhere at the beginning of the last century, and they were bought to be dismantled, to create new routes, to sell buses, to sell cars, to sell brand new cars. And we lost our trains. Many trains, many train stations have been turned into cultural places, cultural centers. What happened then? This change in Latin America after the 60s became huge cultural places, huge informal places, huge household places, motorways, and we were sold the idea of the freedom of driving a car. If you have a car, you are someone important and you're free. That freedom, it's an illusion. It's an illusion because in our cities in the world obey to the same business model of the building and construction industry that saw the distance as a business. Distance have been the common denominator around the world. My city, Paris, is the business quartier, the biggest business quartier in the world. They started building along the riverbank, the Seine, and you live and work very far away. So live and work under stress, the dependency to the car The transportation, state-of-the-art transportation, has led us to lose our comfort. This is Buenos Aires. This is the same image. Micro center with the skyline, with the business building and people living in the outskirts. How is it possible that in Mongolia, the lowest density country, Ulaanbaatar, the capital city, has the same population with the same profile, and they have these quarries and these skyliners, and they live together. It's a country in which people were nomadic in harmony with nature. So this is what we would like to transform nowadays by proposing a new urban and territory narrative to be the same, not to tell a story to the governor or to the mayor or to the entrepreneur or to the citizens, and we end up with three different stories that are leading us nowhere. We have built an urban narrative that is the same for local governments, for citizens, for the developer, for the private sector, to change the way we work. I have the honor to work with two Nobel Prizes. My friend Mohamed Julius, he wrote a world, a 000 world, zero carbon emissions, zero exclusion, zero carbon, with a new geographical economy. We are reinventing a new geographical economy of sustainable proximity. Why? Because we cannot be depending on our economy completely centralized. We need to bring employment to the suburbs. Informal economy has to be transformed into a popular economy, existing and allowing people to have dignity. We need to develop education, universities, colleges. We need to open up public spaces. We need to generate a life that is not a life of a pendulum, big pendulum, taking us from point A to point B without being able to have a presence, an affectionate presence of our existence. And for that reason, the proximity revolution is placing the life quality of each of us as the key element of the public policy, the urban quality life, the territory quality life. We have accepted that it's what is unacceptable. We have accepted that the essential of our daily activities is crossed by long distances and wasted time everywhere in the world. Long distances, unused buildings, loss of activities, fragmented cities, inequity cities, and this is similar in the different continents. If we place a color to the different cities, we will see that the cities have different colors, and to go from one color to another, it takes time. So that's what we would like to fight. We would like to fight this unequal color code to access to the most essential of our activities. For this reason, a student one day, a 16-year-old student in Africa, in Côte de Marfil, told me, well, we played Rubik's Cube. We played the Rubik's Cube. Do you know that? They give you the cube with the different color codes, and in 3 minutes and a half, it separates and you can put it together. So the Rubik's Cube, this is the inverted Rubik's Cube. It's part of the 6 separated faces, and you want to mix everything. I said, yes, but I cannot do it in 3 seconds and a half. That's impossible. So that's the way I am proposing.
And that is what we are proposing. I propose you to divide those places to have all of the services concentrated on the blue. However, when we get to the red, we're not going to see any households, and we would have lost services and socialization. This is the inversion that we have to do. This is a picture of Bogota, the capital city of Colombia, where I was born. We have 9 million inhabitants. The poorest people live on the south, however, jobs are concentrated on the northeast. The people with lower income live on the red municipalities, 1/3 of the capital, and they account for 1/3 of the capital. And in these neighborhoods, people don't have education. They cannot access these services. While in the northeast neighborhoods, you do have superior education, and minimum wages are very low because there is a huge informality when it comes to employment. And whenever you do the mapping of the transportation time or the commute time, you can see that it takes over 120 minutes to get to a place where they can actually work, study, access public services such as health services. So it is to no one's surprise that this is the mobility map. Look at the diagonal lines going from the southeast to the northeast and from one place to another, because this is what people have to do. People have to commute from these places to some place very far away in order to access basic goods. And a lot of cities follow this same pattern. And this includes social vulnerability and economic security. And what we are trying to do is change the inheritance that Jane Jacobs gave us, that Henry Lefebvre gave us. He is very well known in Latin America when he wrote his book, Right to Citizenship. And he address different topics such as the right to shelter, but we say that an adequate, dignified shelter is not only about having a household, it's about having proximity to public services, to human escalation, to society. Jane said, conscience is our last weapon, and that is the weapon that we all have to carry with us every single day as pioneers of this transformation. Jane Jacobs used to say, the point of cities is having multiple possibilities being offered. A citizen should be able to access whatever they want at any point in time, at any place on the city, without having to depend on different means of transportations, on gas, for example. And that is why we'd have to change the relationship between urban spaces and the valuable time that a person has. The concept that we are proposing is transforming a city in a polycentric city with multiple interconnected centers. It's not about living in independent, isolated neighborhoods, in small villages. No, it is about building a city that is actually interconnected, that has lower carbon emissions, that has mobility, that has visibility, that has infrastructure for bicycles, with a good public transportation system. But at any point, we should be able to find essential services, and that is why we integrated, say, 6 categories represented by 6 different colors that represent the minimum that we need for a good life quality: a dignified job, a dignified household, supply of goods, local markets, good infrastructure so that we can actually take care of the citizens both physically and mentally, the provision of culture. And we have given a color to each of these categories. However, the objective is merging all of these colors. We should be able to merge 2, 3, 4 colors to create a new color so that we can see a different map, and to the medium and long term we can actually transform the city. And that is why this is called the social life high quality rainbow. We don't want a rainbow with different independent colors. We want to have a rainbow with a spectrum of colors, and that's what we want to integrate. We want to integrate social mobility, we want to integrate circular economy, we want to integrate social circularity, we want to integrate urbanism, and that is why we have integrated all of these factors here. I should be able to access my closest relatives in a short time. I should be able to contact my colleagues, my neighbors. I should be able to have a good life quality. I should be able to have a lower food carbon footprint. I should be able to have a good relationship with the people living in that area who I still have not met. That is what we call a good urban center. And this is why we have to integrate all of these factors here. Proximity is not the same for each and every single person. Why? Because it is different for a child, a 5-year-old. It is different for the pregnant woman. It is different to the couple who don't have kids. It is different to the couple who do have kids. It is different to the elderly. It is different to a person with specific needs. It is different to a doctor, a youngster who wants to open or go to a bar. It is different for everyone, and through maths and through science and databases, we have to try and understand who is living there today and who is going to be living there tomorrow. It's not the same having a city in the mountains that having a city right next to the beach. We have to explore the situation, this individual context test. We have to understand who is going to be living there so that we can actually build a high life quality matrix in order to meet the primary needs of the people and then satisfy the 3 life quality indicators. And that is why we constructed a scientific methodology, a methodology that actually integrates science, maths, databases, geodata, analysis, and of course, tools to work with people so that people can actually tell us what they think. Those are the tools that we need to integrate. Those are the tools that allow people to raise their voices and to actually say who is going to be the next person here. If I'm going to have children at some point in my life, what do I want for my children? What are my children's needs going to be? And for that, I need to understand my roots, the people's roots, my neighbor's roots. I need to understand what the roots of my children are going to be. I need to understand what proximity is. And by proximity, I not only mean distance or distance proximity. I need to understand the proximity of intermediate services, of basic goods. I'm not going to have a hospital every 15 minutes. I am not going to establish a museum every 15 minutes. No, I am going to have intermediate spaces, and those spaces are always going to be centralized. So basically, we have to become explorers, urban scientists who can actually go to the governments and say, hey, if you're going to be building this or that, don't. And don't do it only because you have someone who specializes in this and the contract is a good opportunity. No, build a place that is actually good for the citizens. There's no point in building a sports center or a basketball court if it is way too far from the main schools. No point. You have to use science data in order to explain this to people, in order to make it make sense, in order to tell them what the infrastructure is going to be like, what should it look like, who is going to be using that infrastructure, which authorities should be integrated in order to have a social equality. And that is why we want this to become accessible knowledge for everyone so that we can boost transparency and so that the local governments become good governments. And that is what we are trying to do with the same vision, the same methodology, however with different strategies throughout the world. In Asia, South Korea, Australia, Paris, Chile, there are many places that we have tried to renovate or reconstruct with this. And that is why we have the World Urban Forum and the Global Observatory of Sustainable Proximities. This was launched approximately 14 years ago with UN Habitat, with C40, with UCLG. And today this has become a Global Observatory of Sustainable Proximities, and it is the trigger of all good practices at a worldwide level. Because if you want to know what are the good practices that are being implemented in different parts of the world, how the projects are being developed, how can you help them as a student, as a researcher, how to improve the processes, then this is where you need to go. The Global Proximities Observatory has also a website called the 15-Minute City Initiatives Explorer. You can find it online in 14 different languages. And here you can see that in different parts of the world, you're going to see different projects. projects that are dedicated to these types of activities. And I would like to conclude just like I started by saying this is not about the 15-minute. This is about life quality, about the right to have a dignified life, to respect, to coexist as a human being, to coexist with their families, with their colleagues, with our nationals. We have to respect our time, the others' times, the nature, the environment surrounding us. This is also about fighting against climate change, because climate change is going to prevent us from living in our cities. And we have to be socially, economically, and environmentally responsible. You probably know this haiku through Obama during his electoral campaign. Obama used to say through this Japanese haiku, I would like to call each and every single one of you, the youth, the girls, the boys, the women, the men, all of those who by 2030 are going to have the uncertainty of what's going to happen to you whenever you are my age or 35 years later. So, youngsters from Mexico, Latin America, the world, you have to change the way you live. And through this haiku, I would like to say, if it's not now, then when? If it's not here in your city, in your birthplace, then when? Where? If it's not me, if it's not you, if it's not each and every single one of us, then who? And this is the answer. Let's think profoundly. Let's follow the Mississippi stories, the exploited mysteries, the exuberant nature, the south of the US. Those people did not know that it was impossible. That's what they did it. Mark Twain. So, to you, youngsters, I say today, empower yourselves. Take the power that you deserve. Everything starts locally. Start building just like a hummingbird with local actions, with your families, your friends, your partners, your colleagues, and ask yourselves, what can you do in order to make sustainable development in cities and communities a reality? Thank you very much.
Gracias, gracias. Si nos permites, para que no bajes, vamos a entregarte un pequeño regalo.
Thank you very much. We would now like to give you a very small but very significant award. You have shared information with us that it is not only useful, but it is also concerning, and that is why we have to reflect on it. And I would also like to invite the previous roundtable participants to the stage, because we have a certificate or award that we would like to grant you with. Please join us on the stage. This is very special for us. It is a representative doll. This doll represents our roots, our lands, and this is the award that we would like to grant you with today. So please join me on stage. David Lopez. On behalf of David Lopez, we are going to award you with this doll who represents our culture, our roots, our traditions, and that is not only for Querétaro but for Mexico. So here you are. This doll is called Don Shu. It is a handmade doll in Amealco, a municipality or a magic town in Mexico. And Don Shu is very close to the Lele doll, which you will get to know later. But Don Shu is a doll who always stands, and that is how we represent our indigenous women. They always stand strong. No matter what happens, no matter what they face, they always stand strong with their little ones on their arms. And of course, with this award, we would like to thank Carlos. Carlos, thank you very much for joining us today. Please, let's share a big round of applause for Carlos Moreno. This was an amazing presentation. You honored us with your presence today, and we are very, very thankful. Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much for the award. Thank you very much to our participants from the previous roundtable as well. Thank you very much. And yes, we are privileged. We were privileged of listening to these ideas, of welcoming all of the amazing guests that are here with us in the forum beyond the 2030 agenda.